Pre-sale of the coloring book drops October 15th, this Friday. Welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity up your you. I just want to ask you guys, did you feel that at all? Last week, social media went down for a few hours, and some people were probably pulling their hair out when it was all taking place. But for me, there was a sense of peace, and that brought to attention the importance of mental health, the importance of consumption, the importance of what your interactive diet looks like. You know, anxiety, depression, all of those things kind of come up in conversation. Sometimes it's very passive in terms of what it looks like and what it feels like. Ask yourself, is what I'm consuming on social media, is it junk food? Little things to think about, you know? And while I'm not a mental health professional, like I study psychology, so the things that I'm telling you are not just me pulling them out of the thin air. I have awareness, but also I have personal experience. Anxiety, just in short, what it feels like is there's this constant state of impending doom. And it doesn't matter what it involves. It could be something as like having to go to the grocery store or having to spend time with someone. Like, you get anxiety and it just feels like an intense state of panic. Depression feels like an emptiness and heaviness all at once. I think oftentimes people perceive depression to look like a person in black and white, and there's just this cloud hanging over their head, and that's not always the case. Sometimes the happiest people or the life of the party can be the most depressed people. And social media, we don't always realize, influences one or the other or both of those responses. So I think it's important to understand and recognize what your daily habits look like. Are you watching other people all the time, seeing what they're doing? Are you actually having relationships outside of social media that are like substantial and full of some sustenance? Are you just always consuming junk food? Last week for me, when I wasn't able to post or access Instagram, initially I kind of freaked out because I was like, something's going on with my social media again. But then once I realized that it was an actual issue, it allowed me to relax. You are, whether you're just a person just using social media, or a person that's building a brand, or your business exists there, there's a lot of intricacies that happen within your engagement on social media. When social media went down, I felt calm because it didn't feel like there was a need for me to be doing the thing, to be working, to be posting, to be paying attention to algorithms, to be paying attention to times, to be paying attention to comments, likes, etc. All of these things I didn't have to worry about. And I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but if you did, that's something worth looking at. Even though it's not food per se, is still consumption. And sometimes what you are consuming in social media is a lot like junk food. It feels good in the moment, but it leaves you feeling gross later. Pay attention to what it is that you are, what your feed looks like, or what's the content that you are consuming and digesting on a daily basis. Be mindful of what it feels like, because you may not understand that, you know, certain things are triggering certain responses within you, visceral responses. Sometimes it's also easy to get caught up in what other people are doing, and you feel like this is what you should be doing, or you feel like you're not doing enough. That's why they say don't compare your journey to someone else's, because we don't always have all the pieces of somebody else's journey. We just see the finished product, right? That's all we see on social media. We get the highlights, and we're not understanding all the dark days or the dark moments that are behind that very bright picture. Those videos talking about how to become like a millionaire overnight, or what you should be doing day in and day out, team no sleep and all that. I really don't subscribe to that. As hard as I work, I realize I also need to rest, because otherwise I can't function. It's so important. And sometimes rest doesn't just look like sleeping, although that's important. It looks like stepping away from the things that have you feeling very restless. That's what I'm looking for. Sometimes you're engaging in things that make you feel very restless. And social media can be one of them, but you have to be mindful of it. And that's why I think it's important too. It's like, there are people who check your social media before they check on you. And you have to ask yourself, am I one of those people? Do I do that? Or do I have people that do that? You know, what am I posting? What content am I posting? Who's interacting with it? Who's engaging with it? What is that for me? Like, what does that look like for me? Being willing to take a break and step away sometimes is so vital, especially when you are a business that relies on social media. You know, when things shut down, I couldn't do anything. So the pressure to do anything wasn't really there. It's just like, all right, I could focus on other things, or I could just do something simple that feels good to me, like stretch. And it's easy to say a lot of times when your business is not involved in social media. But when it is, you know, when the likes decide how much you get paid, or your numbers, how many followers you have, when that determines what offers you receive, it's hard to step away from that. Scheduling time for yourself. But sometimes you have moments in life that force you to just stand still and take a look at exactly what's going on. And even though you have a business, every business has a schedule. I was talking to my friend recently, and she was like, well, I have this day planned out because I just always make sure I have a day for myself that I take for myself where I don't do anything work related because I'm always working. I was like, I love that. That's necessary. I don't always do that for myself, but what I've tried to do is condense my work days. You know, if I'm working on this thing, I try to get as much as I can done within the week. So when the weekend comes, I have less work to do. Give yourself the opportunities and space to breathe and be mindful of what it is that you're consuming, and also be mindful of what energy you're running on. Are you running on like a state of restlessness and angst and always having to be doing something? Or are you feeling like depleted and deflated? All of these things are very important to pay attention to. And social media, like I said, can influence that. And like I said, be aware of what it is that you're consuming on your social media feed. You know, because the algorithm pays attention to what it is that you pay attention to. Little things go a long way. And recognize, you know, if you're not on social media, sometimes the world is not going to crash and burn. Your world is not going to crash and burn. Social media is always going to be there. And if anything, it's just going to progress. But are you progressing? Take care of yourselves. All right? Take care of each other. Stay tuned for this bad boy here and take flight.